Shalawama, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to Astrotheology number 37, where we are reading the Devil's PulPit. The Devil's PulPit, get it, download it. It is a free PDF download. Get it? We are reading it. Uh-oh, hold on. Let me check my microphone. Why is there no? Hold on, y'all. All right. The Devil's PulPit. Get it? Download it. It is a free PDF download. Get it? We are reading it. Why? Let me check my microphone. Why is there no? Hold on, y'all. Anyway, I need to give me 1 second, y'all. I need to check why my feed is not happening. Oh man, Anyway, I need to give me 1 second. I need to check why my feed is not happening. All right. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Welcome. If this is your first time, welcome. We're reading from the Devil's PulPit, which is a collection of sermons by Dr. Robert Taylor. I'm reading, and after I read, I interpret, and then we do some comments. We do some commentary. Okay, I do commentary. And you are welcome to ask questions and put comments in the chat. This is not a religious thing. This is a scholarly academic experience, okay? So do not expect religion, do not expect dogma, and do not expect theater. Okay, so there's no theater, no theatrics, but we're gonna have fun with this intellectually stimulating topic, astrotheology. All right, so if you've been with us from the beginning, I want to say thank you and acknowledge the discipline that you show. And if you are a regular commenter, I want to say thank you and I appreciate it. And your comments, your questions, when you put links in the chat, for example, definition of words, or if you find books that are cited, when you put those things in the comment section, it adds a great deal. It adds a great deal to the quality of this presentation, and it makes it that much better for those who come in and view it. The object here, again, for us is to learn and to share our knowledge, not to be selfish, not to be stingy. All right, that's it. We're gonna get into it. We're on page 208. And with the app I'm on right now, I'm not able to show your comments on the screen, but I will read them. Okay, I will read them. Keep in mind Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. Okay, keep in mind Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. I'm not going to show it right now, but it basically says that our ancestors, the scribes, wrote lies into our documents, into the records. Okay, so not everything in scripture is true. The author is proving it. As we read through this document, he is proving it with etymology, with church father writings, with mythology as it applies to the verses, and with architecture and art. Okay, he's proving it. So with linguistics and history, he's proving it. But it's up to you to decide if the author makes his case, if his claims are true, based on the science, not based on dogma. All right, the object of this book is to look past the dogma and look at the science, okay? Learn how to separate the dogma, which is what we've all been taught, and take a second look, a critical look, using the sciences that I just mentioned. All right, so now we're on page 209. Sorry about that, page 209, not page 208. We're gonna go back to Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8 in a little bit. So remember, linguistics, etymology, history, these are key sciences. You also get these key sciences when you subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibaryath at zionlawschool.org. All right, so go check that out. Everybody's invited to our Saturday 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time class. The links are in the chat for both. Okay, let's get started. Page 209, the Devil's Pulpit. We will begin with the reading of Mathew chapter 27, verse 42. Give me a second, y'all. All right. What's going on? I need a second, y'all. Something is not right with my air conditioning, and it's hot here. It's almost like this happens every day. But nothing I can do about it, so please be patient. Oh, shoot. I gotta get this together, y'all, because it gets hot. So give me, it's too hot. In Yucatan, Mexico, it gets real hot. All right. Well, so here we go. Here we go. The Crucifixion of Christ, a Good Friday sermon. This sermon was delivered on November 14th. The year was 1830. 1830, almost 200 years ago, right? This is 222. All right, so this is very old. And the older the books are, the more reliable, right? The more reliable. Anyway, let's get into it. Matthew chapter 27, verse 42 reads, quote, "He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the king of Israel, let him come down off the cross, and we will believe him," end quote. All right. Let's get into the first paragraph. We are here. We are here. Feel free to follow along. We are here. "Was not this blasphemous, cruel taunt to cast in the teeth, if he had any teeth, of the poor bleeding lamb, of whom on this holy day 100,000 Christians, quite as innocent as lambs, are singing that pretty stave, quote, lo, streaming from the fatal tree, his all-atoning blood. Is this the infinite? 'Tis he, my Savior and my capital G-O-D," end quote. So the author is referring to Good Friday. Good Friday, the crucifixion of the cross. And before we get into this, when I was in the Philippines, do y'all know that there were people who literally crucified people on a cross? They literally, I'm not exaggerating, they would show it on the news. It would be some fool, some idiot, who would allow others to literally crucify him, drive nails into his hands. Okay. Others, they would put it on the news. Others would allow people to beat him, right? Reenacting when the alleged Romans allegedly beat the Christ figure, the guards. They would actually be beaten with whips, leather, bleeding, half dead. This is the honest to goodness truth, dog. This happens every year in the Philippines. They do it, and sometimes they die. So why would somebody do something as crazy as that, right? Knowing that people have died? What would make somebody act so crazy? Well, let's call it for what it is. So foolishly. All right, now let's continue. And I say, my capital God too, but I give ye any comment of my own. Ye shall have the text itself of Christian doctrine to the full chorus of the evangelical orthodoxy. So the author is saying, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to let the evangelical orthodox leaders say it. Quote, well might the sun, S-U-N, in darkness hide and veil his glories in. So the sun, S-U-N, is hiding in darkness. The darkness covers the glory. The glory is the light, right? The light rays. When capital G-O-D, the mighty maker, died for man, the creature's sin, end quote. So again, the deity is being related to the Son, S-U-N. So in the Trinity, capital G-O-D is the Son also, right? They're the same. So that's why you see that. All right. I forgot to read a footnote somewhere. Okay. So back in the title, it says a Good Friday sermon. There's a footnote, an asterisk. It says persecuted for blasphemy in the footnote. So let's go ahead and change the page. Please like and share the video. Like and share the video. And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing now. Okay. Consider subscribing now. Let's continue. Let's continue with page 210. In the full tide of evangelical declamation, the fathers of our English church, pursuing to its full extent the dogma of the absolute divinity of Christ. Y'all hear that? The absolute divinity of Christ. That's their dogma, their teaching. In commemoration of this day, that's Good Friday, which they call Good Friday, to this effect, address their admiring congregation. So on Good Friday, this is what they say to the congregation, quote, carry back your minds, ye faithful Christians, to the awful scenes of Gethsemane and Calvary. He who suffered on that bitter cross was none other than the creator of the world himself. That's capital G-O-D, right? The Son, S-O-N, and S-U-N, according to the author, as we just read. There's an asterisk. Let's read the asterisk. It says, in the indictment. Okay, so we're going to read the indictment. Oh, awful misery. Oh, awful mystery, rather, mystery. Oh, awful mystery. Oh, love divine. There you behold the almighty capital G-O-D arraigned as a felon at the bar of Pontius Pilate. Him who only hath immortality tried for his life. J.C. the Christ figure, the righteous found guilty. The author of nature suffered. The immortal capital G-O-D expired. Do y'all see the contradiction? How can the deity, capital G-O-D, be immortal if he expired, which is died, right? Right? How can that happen? The author says the immortal, let me repeat that, J.C. the Christ figure, the righteous found guilty. Okay, that's a problem too, right? How is it that the righteous is found guilty? The author of nature suffered. So if you are the author of nature, how is it then, if nature is operating by principles, how is it that you suffer? Y'all follow that? But anyway, let's continue. Those are just things to think about from my point of view. The immortal capital God expired. The everlasting ceased to be, right? How can he be everlasting if he ceased to be? Okay. And if he ceased to be, have you ever thought about this? If he ceased to be, then who resurrected him, right? If he is really dead, expired, who resurrected him? Who else has life if not the capital God in the gospel? Who else has life if he was dead? Dead is the opposite of life, right? Dead is the opposite of life. Who resurrected JC, the Christ figure, if the deity, capital God, was dead? Let's continue. There was a radical form in the kingdom of heaven. The borough-mongers who turned out, the jure, J-U-R-E, divino ship of capital God himself was no longer respected. Quote, capital God over all, end quote, was put under, quote, blessed forevermore, end quote, was no more blessed. Y'all see that? The contradictions? Forever literally is forever, right? Forever literally is forever, nothing else. So there's a contradiction. Holy, holy, holy was wholly kicked out. Quote, the tetragrammaton's awful throne, end quote, was declared vacant, and the provisional government devolved into the hands of that vulnerable old Republican Lieutenant General Beelzebub. Y'all got that? So if the deity of the gospel expired, he's dead. JC is dead. Who's the next guy in charge? Right? That would be, according to Christianity, Satan the devil, right? So who resurrected the Christ figure? Who resurrected the capital? Who resurrected the Son and the Father? That's the question. Satan the devil, being this powerful angel, is next in line to be the ruler. So who did the resurrection? All right. These are questions to ask because we are thinking critically. Next paragraph. Such is not more than the consecutive tissue of absurdity, which imagination must necessarily attach to that first and primordial absurdity, which the evangelical Watts has consecrated in those words, quote, capital God, the mighty maker died. For man, who is the creature, right? For man, the creature sinned. So the almighty maker died for the sins of his creation, who is man. Next paragraph. Nor does it exceed the license of the catechesis. Somebody look up catechesis. I don't know that word. Please, and put it in the chat. Which in an extemporaneous babbler in a gospel shop would be allowed to come within the propriety and solemnity of a most spiritual and sublime sermon. Okay, I need to look this word up because I don't know what it means, and therefore I'm not able to understand this paragraph. Y'all give me 1 second, okay, please? All right, give me 1 second. Let's look this word up real quick. Chair. Catachersis. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I think I'll share the screen. See what we come up with. All right. So let's see how this is pronounced. If they offer a they don't offer a pronunciation. Okay, it is a noun. Oh, they do have a pronunciation. Okay, I don't hear anything.
Catacresis.
Catacresis.
Okay, so catacresis. All right, definition of catacresis is use of the wrong word for the context. 2, use of a forced and especially paradoxical figure of speech, such as blind mouths. All right, I understand. Let's read it again. Nor does it exceed the license of catacresis, nor does it exceed the license of using the wrong word for the context. Y'all got it? Nor does it exceed the license of using the wrong word for the context, nor does it exceed the license of the use of a forced and paradoxical figure of speech. All right. So, which in an instant, in a extemporaneous babbler in a gospel shop, I guess that would be a church, would be allowed to come within the propriety of solemnity of a most spiritual and sublime sermon. Wow, that's a mouthful, y'all. Okay, so what he's saying here is these contradictions that we just talked about, which in the extemporaneous babbler. The extemporaneous babbler would be the idiot Christian that he always talks about in a church gospel, would be allowed to come within the propriety and solemnity of a most spiritual and sublime sermon. I don't understand what he means. I'll have to come back to this paragraph, okay? Let me read the paragraph above. Such is not more than the consecutive tissue of absurdity, which imagination must necessarily attach to that first and primordial absurdity, which the evangelical Watts have consecrated in these words. So the absurdity that he's talking about is that the deity of the gospel, the Father and the Son both died for the creature, the man, for his sin, nor does it exceed the license of. Hey, let me look up license. Maybe there's a meaning of license that I'm not aware of that he's referring to. You know, this book was written back in, these lectures were given back in the early 1800s. So maybe there's something, a meaning that I'm not aware of. So let's check it out. Nor does it exceed the license of catacresis. Okay, official legal permission, a document, card, plate issued as proof, contract allowing someone to that and this. Let's see what else. Poetic. Oh, okay. So poetic license. So he's all right. So y'all see this where it says poetic license? Y'all see that? Poetic license. Well, rather than me say it, let me just make sure. Okay. Let's put it in and get a precise meaning. Let's get a precise meaning. Poetic license refers to deviation from fact or form for artistic purposes. All right, there we go. Nor does it exceed the license of catacresis. So what the author is saying, is this statement, these contradictions cannot be attributed to poetic license, all right? Cannot be attributed or overlooked due to poetic license. Y'all got it? So we see artistic license here. Artistic license refers to deviation from fact or form, okay? So to say that the Christ figure and the Father are almighty and they died, they expired, okay, is this a form of deviating from fact or deviating from form, deviating from the truth? Y'all follow what I'm trying to say here? Well, clearly it's not a writing technique. Artistic license is a writing technique, okay, where you can deviate or you can say something that's not factual, but everybody knows what you're doing. But in the Gospels, they literally mean that the capital G-O-D and the Christ figure expired, died. That's what the author is saying, in my opinion. Let's go to the next paragraph. But if we may, I gotta go back to the, let me know in the comment section if y'all agree, disagree, if you see it in a different way. As a matter of fact, let me check that right now. Let me check the comment. Let me know if you all see it differently. I don't pretend to know everything, okay? And differing points of view are welcome. All right, so let us continue. We are in the last paragraph here. We're right here where the cursor is. I'll highlight it. Here we are. That's where we are. Let me move that away. Okay, oops. So we are here, scholars. We are here at the highlight. All right, so let's continue. But if we may relieve the cracking stretch of imagination, in other words, forget about the dogma that you've heard, what you've been taught. But if we may relieve the cracking stretch of imagination by borrowing so much psychic from reason as may work us into coolness by imagining so much of the story only to be true, as well admit of being imagined to be true, which capital G-O-D knows is very little of it. So the author is saying, don't imagine that it's true. Basically, that's what he's saying. You need to imagine that it's true, but it's very little of it is true. All right, let's continue. And remember, scholars, this is the author's opinions and knowledge base that he obtained while he was an active member in these secret societies where he was taught this information. And his conscience got the better of him, so he started to tell the truth and inform the people. Hence the name of the title of the book, The Devil's Pulpit, because the secret society members branded him a devil so that nobody would listen to him. All right, let's continue. Why then, in the case of one who had given himself out to be some great one, who had pretended that in some supernatural sense, he was come from capital G-O-D and went to capital G-O-D. Y'all got that? Why then, in the case of one who had given himself out to some great one, who had pretended that in some supernatural sense, he was come from capital G-O-D, that's the Father, and went to capital G-O-D. So in other words, the Son, S-O-N, and the Father are two separate people, but you have to imagine that they are one. But the scripture says that the Son was come to the Father. See, he was come from the Father, and he went to the Father, or he went to capital G-O-D, and he came from capital G-O-D. So how are they one? How are they one? Okay, now some Christian doctrines will say, well, they're one because they have unified thought. They're one in purpose, right? But that's just one doctrine, all right? That's one doctrine. There are others, but let's continue. So the author is saying you need to imagine that this stuff is true. You need to imagine that this doctrine is true. One person being separated into three people, well, two people, and then the Holy Ghost. All right, let's continue. The author further writes that he had really wrought miracles. So you need to imagine that he did these miracles. You need to imagine that he healed the sick. You need to imagine that he raised the dead. Now seeing himself to have need of a savior. So the author is again saying what the Jews said, right? In Mathew chapter 27, verse 42. You saved all these other people, save yourself now, right? That's what the author is saying. Now seeing himself to have need of a savior, seeing himself to be dying, no challenge could be fairer, nor be convinced to be so, than that which the chief priests and scribes and elders offered to him. So the author is saying that's a fair question, or that's a fair demand. You saved them, right? Or at least you claim you saved them. Was it some magic, or was it an illusion? Did somebody else save them, but it looked like you did? Well, if you saved them, now save yourself. And if you can save yourself, then now we know that it was you who saved them. That's logical. That's logical when you look at it that way. It might not be the nicest thing, but in terms of logic, it is logical, at least in my opinion. The author continues. I lost my place. Okay, so seeing himself to be dying, no challenge could be fairer, nor be conceived to be so. I agree, that was fair. Okay, nor could be conceived to be so, than that which the chief priests and scribes and elders offered him at Mathew 27:42. And the fine irony and noble sarcasm of the text, quote, he saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the king of Israel, let him come down from the cross and we will believe him, end quote. Had there been any historical reality in the scene, the not accepting of the challenge, the not coming down from the cross, when so called on to do so, was the greatest proof of imposture. In other words, by him refusing or failing to come down off the cross, was the greatest proof that he was an impostor, a liar. This is what the author is saying. That impostor of any sort could be conceived to have. That's a key paragraph. What I would like for everybody to do is think about this paragraph, and you make a decision as to whether or not the author's logic is logical, whether or not his claim is logical based upon the science, not the doctrine. Remember, the author is saying that you need to use your imagination in order to believe these stories, okay? Especially about the Trinity being 3 in 1, okay? And the Christ, the Son leaves the Father, and then the Son returns to the Father, right? All of that stuff. So right now, just take a second and go through this paragraph carefully and ask yourself, is the author's claim logical? Is it logical? I'm going to read it again. Had there been any historical reality in the scene? This is the scene where the Christ figure is on the cross. He's dying. The not accepting of the challenge. What challenge? He saved others. Himself he cannot save. If he be king of Israel, let him come down from the cross and we will believe him. That's the challenge. The not coming down from the cross, when so called on to do it, was the greatest proof of imposture. That imposture of any sort could be conceived to have. In other words, the author is saying, had the Christ figure took the challenge and came off of the cross, there would have been a historical record documenting that the Christ figure took himself off of that cross. He would have proven that the world of the Israelites, should and must believe on JC, the Christ figure. Why? Because he saved others, and now he saved himself, and he took himself off that cross. This is the author's reasoning, his rationale, his logic. Do you agree? Now, forget about the doctrine. The doctrine is the Christ figure was sent to die on behalf of the world, of Israelites, right? Well, some Christians say the whole world, right? Some Hebrew Israelites say the whole world. He came to die. That was his mission, to die. Okay, on the stake, on the cross, or hanging by a tree, whichever doctrine you agree with. Okay, that was his mission, right? But did that build a historical record, and did it build faith? No. No, it did not. And that's the author's point. It would have been more faith building for him to come off that cross and to save himself. And then there would have been a historical record that JC, the Christ figure, is the Most High, right? There would have been a record. People would have believed it. But now it's all doubt and mystery. It's all mystical mystery. You don't know what happened, right? The apostles have the same names. There's 4 Marys, all this paganism mixed in the religion. Why isn't it crystal clear? And there's a doctrine for that too, right? Every church has a doctrine for that. The most common, or among the most common, is that you ain't ready now because you don't have the Spirit. I've been told that a million times. So let's continue reading. We are on the next paragraph. But wait, before I begin, what is your decision? Is the author's rationale, his logic, crisp? Do you agree with it? Or do you disagree with it? So first, is the author's logic, his rationale, crisp? Is it firm? Or is it foolishness? Is it logical or illogical? Secondly, do you agree with it? Do you agree with the author or do you disagree? Put it in the comment section and please explain why. And remember, scholars who are listening, scholars in the audience, remember there are people who are going to watch this video in the future. So your rationale, your thinking might help somebody who's thinking the same way that you're thinking, who has an experience in life similar to yours. And it just might be that you might be the only one who can relate to that person. So don't be shy, put it in there, leave it as a gift to someone who's going to come along and read it. You never know what kind of good you're going to do for somebody with that comment, with that question, with your objection, whatever it might be, okay? It just might be that you're the person that they can relate to. They might be too shy to contact me. We don't know. But let's continue. Let's continue. But capital God, it will be said, is not bound to give whatever particular proof the impertinent incredulity of man might call for. In other words, man, it ain't none of your business. The Most High ain't thinking about you. He don't have anything to prove to you. He has his own plans. He is the Most High, right? Christians will throw that in your face. That's like the go-to response, right? That's the go-to response when there is no other response, right? When there is no intelligent or logical response, or if they don't know, that's what they're going to say. The Most High can do whatever he want to do. Who are you? But with reverence be it spoken by capital God, and by his honor, he is bound to do so. Oh, wow, y'all got that? But with reverence be it spoken by capital God, and by his honor, he is bound to do so. And the acquitting him from that bond under the hypocritical pretense of a submission to his will is but the same kind of treason against the divine majesty as that of the Roundheads against King Charles. Okay, so he's referencing something about King Charles, right? A parallel situation. When they took up arms in the king's name against the king's person, they took up arms in the king's name against the king himself, his body, and were for calling themselves his loving subjects while they cut off the king's head. Quote, let him come down from the cross and we will believe him, end quote. What fairer, what fitter proof of his divine mission could have been proposed to him, end quote. 'Twas the thing which he himself must have most wished to do. In other words, Christ's figure did not want to die. He wanted to get off of the cross, right? He wanted to get off of the cross, pass the cup. Remember that verse? His rising from the dead afterwards, if we ourselves had seen him rise, would not have been so strong a proof, to us of his truth as his not delivering himself from death was a proof of his falsehood. So in other words, the author, now I kind of disagree with the author here. Let me explain why. Let me read the paragraph again. And y'all tell me, well, first tell me if y'all see it. The Christ figures rising from the dead after he was crucified, if we ourselves had seen him resurrected, would not have been so strong a proof to us of his truth. So in other words, had we saw the Christ figure resurrected, that would not be as strong a proof to us. The proof is the truth, right? Okay. Not so strong a proof to us that the Christ figure was really the Most High. Okay. So here's the comparison. as his not delivering himself from death was a proof of his falsehood. So in other words, the author is saying that because the Christ figure did not, for whatever reason, either he could not, or for some other reason, he did not deliver himself from death on the cross, that is a stronger proof that he is a fraud than the proof of him being resurrected. This is the author's point. Okay, in other words, the author is saying, well, you know what? If you would have took yourself off of that cross, that's stronger evidence than me coming to see you resurrected 3 days later. Okay, now for me, if I would have saw him take himself off that cross, if I would have saw him take himself off of that cross, would I believe he is the Most High? I don't think so, actually. You want to know why? Because I've seen people who were as good as dead come back to life. You know, I've seen people who were literally as good as dead on their way out come back to life. All right. And you wonder, how in the world is this person still alive? Okay. How are they still alive? But it happens. So maybe I agree with the author on this. You know, maybe I agree with the author on this. Okay. Maybe I agree. But what do y'all think? We all have our different experiences in life. I'm only agreeing because I've seen people as dead can get before they're well, even some people who are clinically dead, y'all, right? They wind up alive in the morgue, you know? And it's like, how did that happen? But anyway, what do y'all think about this paragraph? Make sure y'all like and share the video, please. Like and share the video. I'm putting the work in. So y'all, if y'all here, like and share, that helps me grow the channel, right? It helps me grow the channel. And I need to have some positive feedback with this so that I know that people want to see me present this information. If there's nothing, then I'll assume that nobody wants to hear it. Nobody's interested in it, you know, and then I would have to abandon it. So please give me positive feedback. And the way to do that is by subscribing and liking the video, sharing the video so we can have more people come in and have a more robust discussion in the chat. Okay, so let's go through some of these comments. Roderick's point of view says, good evening. Shalom, Roderick's point of view. Good to see you. Sounds like maybe the author is saying that people are using art to make it real or using art to state facts when it's actually an art form, or maybe even possibly just a story. I would have to agree with you on that. I would have to agree with you on that. It's like words of art on steroids, right? Roderick's point of view continues. Him coming down off the cross, the Christians will say, was the passion. They will apologetic it away. They will apologetic logic away. Yes, indeed, man. I have a friend who's she gets angry at me, but I call her a Hebrew Israelite Christian. And she does that all the time. Roderick's point of view continues. Well, I must admit that had he did come down off the cross and save himself, that would have had a greater impact in the world. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It would have been all kinds of historical records about it. All kinds. let's see, Roderick's point of view says, Gary Tucker writes, in Islam, during the garden fight with the Roman soldiers, Judas was transformed to look like JC, the Christ figure. Thereby, it was Judas on the cross. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, that's interesting. Appellation Joel, Islam, greetings. I self-law am master. Shalawama. All the Moors in the house. Roderick's point of view says, exactly. And if Lazarus came back to life, I mean, no one thought he was the Most High. So JC coming back to life doesn't mean he's the Most High. Excellent point, Roderick's point of view. Excellent point. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? That is an excellent point. Appellation Joel writes, most definitely want to bear this. All right, excellent. Joel continues. The three words spoken to raise Christ from the dead, Axon, Mask, Beef, Kuhlman, I think. Okay, yeah, I don't know, but thanks for the information. That's the first time I ever heard of it. I appreciate you sharing it. And I might check into that because I've never heard of that before, so thanks. So let's continue, y'all. Let's continue. The author really goes in. He really, this author is too much, man. He's too much. His sarcasm, he puts that sarcasm on thick, but you have to admit the sarcasm is also funny. Really, really funny if you can decipher it, you know. But it's also fun trying to decipher and figure out what he's saying in this old time English too. Appellation Joel says Adon. Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Let's see. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun figuring out what he's saying. I'm enjoying it. So now let me see, where are we? But this is a good, actually, this is a good point. It would be nice to do a call-in on this topic. What's more powerful evidence that the Christ figure is the Most High? Him coming off of the cross or him being resurrected? That would be a good call-in show. Y'all know that? Maybe y'all want me to put a one in the chat if y'all don't want it. But if y'all want to call in tomorrow, and we have that discussion, which evidence would have been more powerful? If you want it, put a 1. If you don't want it, put a 2. Let me know. You know, if people want that, then I'll do it. We can do a call-in show. Y'all can call in and tell what you think and why, you know. And the only thing I'm going to do is answer the phone and let y'all speak, you know. But I think this would be fun. As a matter of fact, I have never heard Appellation Joel. What's the cue for? 1 if you want it, 2 if you don't want it. Okay, 1. Okay, so y'all let us know, y'all. Also share the video so we can get more people in. I've never heard any discussion on this topic. So, you know, tomorrow, I mean, we could do this tomorrow. And man, that would be fun. But it would be y'all who's going to carry the show, not me. So we would need people to call in and be willing to express their opinion and explain why. You know, I might ask some questions, but I'm not going to like challenge anybody or be nasty. That would be fun. So put a 1 in the comment section if y'all want it, 2 if you don't. So let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. We are on page 211. And after all, if we are to reason upon the matter and let the words we use have the proper meanings attached to them, y'all see how important it is. Connotative linguistics meaning the assumed meaning of words, meaning the definition that people think a word means, as opposed to its denotative meaning, which is what it actually means, its precise meaning. When you use those kinds of linguistics, connotative words, you cannot, or your ability to reason is lessened. Why? Because you're not using precise words and nobody knows what you're talking about. And you don't even know what you're talking about because you're using connotative linguistics. Roderick's point of view, one, but will be at work. Okay, cool. Thanks, Roderick's point of view. All right. Y'all see what I'm saying? This is the author telling us. And after all, if we are to reason upon the matter and let the words we use have the proper meanings attached to them, the resurrection of Christ, in the sense our ignorant and stupid, if not wicked and deceitful clergy attached to it, involves a contradiction in terms, a saying and unsaying, a saying and unsaying, a being and not being at the same time. Again, if not, the author says, if not wicked and deceitful clergy attached to it, these are the meanings, right? Involve a contradiction in terms. So the contradiction due to the use of connotative linguistics, it involves a contradiction in terms, a saying and unsaying, a being and not being. All of this at the same time, y'all. Which, if it is to be endured, why Bedlam must be the great seat of wisdom, slobbering idiocy and stark staring madness are to be our masters, and will turn poor reason out of doors forever. So the author is saying, using this kind of connotative linguistics, the religious leaders are able to make you stupid, because connotative linguistics impedes your ability to reason. That's why they use connotative linguistics through their social engineering programs. That's why we're not taught etymology and linguistics. Because if we were using denotative or precise meanings of words, their real meaning of words, then we would be able to reason better. But these priests know this, so they give us connotative linguistics and religion. And now we cannot read, we are forced to accept and imagine. Appalachian Darrell-El writes, Strong's exhaustive concordance as a decoder key. Wonder if this is why it came about. Of course. You know, the priesthood must have the real information or degrees of it, depending on their level in the organization, right? Otherwise, it cannot maintain their power. The power is based upon deceptive or fake stories and connotative linguistics, right? Because people can imagine any old thing. They're imagining something, okay? They're speaking and imagining something that's actually not written on the paper. And they don't know any better, right? And you can speak things into existence, even if it's to your detriment. So this is what the author is alluding to. So let's continue. So the author says, through connotative linguistics, the churchgoers, the believers have thrown reason out of the window. For what is it to be dead, if it not be to be as dead as mutton. Y'all got that? What is it to be dead if not dead? When you're dead, that's it. But you need to imagine that you can come back and resurrect, or somehow or another, you resurrect yourself, right? Because people have a connotative meaning for the word death that allows a resurrection to happen, when the real meaning of dead is literally dead. Okay, so for what is it to be dead? That's a question. If it be not to be as dead as mutton, as dead as a doornail, that is utterly beyond the possibility. Let me scroll to the next page. That is utterly beyond the possibility, beyond the conceivability of again becoming alive. Scholars in the audience, I believe the author has made, in my opinion, he has made his point. When you're dead, you're gone. And there ain't no coming back from being dead. A good example of this is how young people kill each other or kill other people. You know, they see on TV or videos, movies, people get killed. They don't understand the finality of death. Anybody agree with me? Anybody know what I'm talking about? They don't understand the permanency of death. And so they kill. They don't realize what they're doing. Okay. So let's see. If I'm offending y'all, it's not meant to, I don't mean to offend anyone, but I'm just using my reason. Roderick's point of view. Yes, I believe the preset does have the real information. Look at the Strongs and how you have multiple definitions for one word, and then they tell you how many times that particular definition is used. Excellent point. Excellent point. You really have to know how to use these tools, right? They don't make it accessible for common people. So you really have to study to be able to use them. Roderick continues, the fact that they can tell you how many times the definition was used lets us know they know where it was used, but they will not tell us where the proper usage goes in the scriptures. Excellent point again. Excellent point again. They do not want us to know. If you have the secret treaty of Verona, it'll show the relationship between government and religion. They work together. Religion delivers the people to the government in a passive state of mind. In other words, religion will make a fool out of you and pacify you so that you can then be abused by government through its policies and through the corporations, right? They can abuse you and you're not going to do anything. This is the purpose of religion. Check out the Secret Treaty of Verona. If then it was possible that Christ could come to life again, it could not at the same time have been impossible. Let's read that again. If then it was possible that Christ could come to life again, it could not at the same time have been impossible. Y'all got that? It has to be possible or impossible. It cannot be both. This is what the author is saying. But if it was not impossible that he could come to life again, then, that is, if it was not impossible, then he had never been in that state which answers to the definition of death. He had never been dead at all. I agree with the author on his reasoning. So I think we had 10 people in here. I guess 5 got offended or they had to leave for some reason. I understand. I was once in that state of mind too. But the sad thing about it, if I don't know why these people left, I'm just going to make an assumption. Now, let me rephrase that. I want to say something about my experience, and I'm going to assume that one or more viewers left because of the subject matter. In my case, when I was in Christianity, we would be scared. We would think we're talking against the Most High. We're talking against the Christ figure, and he's going to get us, right? He's going to punish us. Okay. Or I'm listening to something that's apostate type of material, and then the Most High is going to get me, do some punishment to me. And so that type of fear would have made me leave at that time in my life. Y'all know what I'm saying? If y'all can relate to me, put it in the chat. But now I look back on that and I see that it was a form of bullying and a form of mind control and behavior control that the religious leaders put in their doctrine so that you would never investigate research beyond them, beyond Christianity, right? So they needed to have me, you in fear to submit you, to subjugate you, to not look outside that window. Because if you look outside that window, you might see that it's better and that outside that window is the truth. And little old me and little old you were sitting there in jail, imprisoned by religion through our imagination. All right, so Roderick's point of view says death is eternal. Sure is. You're either dead or you're not. And then they ran that hustle on people about purgatory, right? You're dead, but if you give them some money, you can get out of purgatory and go to heaven. Y'all see how they play on people's imagination? And connotative linguistics, because dead means you're dead. Okay, there is no purgatory unless you imagine it, because they told you. Okay, Appalachian Darrell-El says, interesting thing, as the fear of death does not always show up here. Him coming back to life, Lazarus as well. So how did it come to be? Keep on watching the videos and you'll find out. You will arrive at that on your own. Let's see. What do y'all think about this topic? What the author is saying? Y'all agree with him or disagree? Let's see. So we're on the next paragraph. Okay, how far? Okay, all right. And if there had been any necessity for a manifestation of divine justice in the matter, why, in the name of capital God and of reason, should not that Christ figure, JC, who had made a whip of cords and turned out the poor tradespeople and little shopkeepers for the venial offense of selling their wares in the churchyard, why should he not, for the much greater offense of the aristocrats, the chief priests and scribes and Pharisees, in seeking to crucify him, make a cat o' nine tails and lay it out on their backs to such a tune as would have whipped the offending Adam out of them and brought them to their knees in true repentance? Well, that's another good point. That's a very good point. The Christ figure went to beating, right? Turning over the tables because of the money changers in the temple, right? But Why didn't he come off that cross and whip those people? Let me read it again. JC, the Christ figure, who had made whips of cords and turned out the poor tradespeople and little shopkeepers for the venial offense of selling wares in the churchyard. Isn't it interesting? He said that the Christ figure did all of this because they were selling things. Okay, well, money changers selling things. Okay, that's the same thing. Money changers. All right. Okay, so he kicked out the money changers or the sellers. Why should he not, for the much greater offense of the aristocrats, the chief priests, scribes, Pharisees, and seeking to crucify him? So the author is saying that the aristocrats, the priests, the Pharisees, so on and so forth, committed a much greater crime, and that greater crime was seeking to crucify the Christ figure. Why didn't the Christ figure come off of the cross and whip them? Because their offense was greater or worse than that of the money changers. Well, that's a good point too. That's a good point. On top of the, it would have been more believable in the historical record. All right, so let's continue. But such is, in every instance, the character of the boasted morals of the gospel. Quote, the purest system of morals, you see, that ever was in the world, and where we ye find anything to equal the morals of the gospels. So the author here is saying that because the money changers got whipped just for changing money, like they had always done, but the people who sought to kill the Most High Son didn't get whipped. So the author is saying that that's immoral. That's not right, according to the author. Not according to me, but according to the author. I'm only explaining what the author is writing. And some of this stuff is really funny. All right, so let's continue. The poor devils who sought to keep soul and body together by picking up the honest penny that they might be gained by selling nuts and oranges in the outer courts of the temple, have their baskets knocked over and are flogged, scourged, and lacerated with stripes and wails, quote, which mercy with a bleeding heart weeps when she sees inflicted on a dog, end quote. So actually I was right. The author is saying whatever translation the author was looking at or reading the verses from, the translation that the author is referring to says that the Christ figure whipped sellers who were selling not money, not the money changers, right? I'll read the paragraph again. The poor devils who had sought to keep soul and body together by picking up the honest penny that they might be gained by selling nuts and oranges in the outer courts of the temple. So the author is saying that it was not the money changers, but it was people who were selling fruit, common people. So I would love to know what version of the Bible he's looking at. I would love to know if they added money changers later. Y'all know what I'm saying? If it was added later. Roderick's point of view writes, I can agree with some things. Bottom line, if this never happened, it just never happened. I compare this to Santa Claus. Until you learn the truth, Santa Claus is real. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Good point. Good point. In fact, for me, the whole thing stops at Deuteronomy chapter 29. The promised land was a burning waste, right? So none of this stuff could have happened. I agree 100% with your Roderick's point of view. All right, let's continue. While the poor and spotless clergy might commit the greatest crime, which the Son, S-U-N, ever saw, with impunity, might nail him who made them to the cross, blaspheme his Godhead, and defy his power. Oh, that's an excellent point. He's speaking to the morality or lack of morality of these religious leaders. Listen to what he says again. While the poor and spotless clergy might commit the greatest crime which the Son, S-U-N, ever saw. S-U-N has been here. S-U-N, the Son, has seen everything, right? That's what he's saying. These people commit murder, rape, child abuse, pedophilia, murder, extortion, overturn governments, participate in stealing indigenous people's natural resources, but they get away with it. While the poor and spotless clergy might commit the greatest crime which the Son, S-U-N, ever saw, with impunity, might nail the Christ figure or their deity who made them to the cross. They got it so good they can nail their maker to the cross, blaspheme his Godhead, and defy his power. Oh, what a beautiful exhibition of moral justice is the gospel. Wow. But there is this relief to the matter. Upon the Unitarian hypothesis that were the story viewed as a matter of history, which I am sure the story was never intended to be viewed as a matter of history, and were all its pretended evidence to be received as good and valid evidence, and to be judged by the ordinary laws of evidence. Y'all got that? The author is saying, judge this story by the ordinary laws of evidence. Okay? Don't make any special exceptions and get off into la-la land and imagination. Judge it by the ordinary laws of evidence. So that maybe you would have to look up the rules of evidence, right? And law. That would be helpful. And to be judged by the ordinary laws of evidence as an honest jury would judge any other case. It would not carry a verdict that Christ had ever been put to death at all. I agree with the author 100%. Because as Roderick's point of view said, death is eternal. Once you're gone, you're gone. There is no coming back. All right. Appellation Joel says, so where is the astrology here then? Well, Son, S-U-N, S-O-N, he hasn't made too much, the author, that is, the author hasn't made really too much reference to astrotheology so far in this chapter, other than he talks about the S-U-N and the Son. So for example, if you've been, for those who have been coming here regularly, the paragraph we just read, while the poor and spotless clergy might commit the greatest crime which the Son, S-U-N, ever saw, well, you can replace S-U-N with S-O-N. That would be which the Son of Christ, or the Son of capital G-O-D, right? So that would be astrotheological. Also, the Son is also the Father in the Trinity. But up until now, in this, to what we've read in this chapter, there's been very little direct reference to astrotheology. Okay, but we got 36 videos, and you'll see as much astrotheology as you could possibly imagine. All right, so let's continue. Let's continue. I lost my place. Oh, okay. For what is the evidence? That's the question. What time is it? Okay, we still got a few more minutes. For what is the evidence? So he's going to give us 9 pieces of evidence, y'all. He's going to give us 9 pieces of evidence. So let's begin with the first piece of evidence. So if you're just coming in, could you like the video, share it? Let's try to get some more people in. Like and share the video, and enjoy. Have a good time. So what is the evidence? 1, the disposition of Pilate to release Jesus is admitted. Quote, from thenceforth Pilate sought to release him. John chapter 20, verse 12. The disposition of Pilate to release JC, the Christ figure, is admitted. All right, so that's admitted. 2, so we're looking at the evidence. Second piece of evidence. The power of Pilate to release the Christ figure is admitted. Quote, knowest thou not, let me repeat that, knowest thou not that I have power to crucify thee and have power to release thee? That's John 20, verse 10. Third piece of evidence. The declaration of Pilate that he would release him is admitted. Quote, I will chastise him and let him go, end quote. That is, I will let him go no less than a positive promise to do so. So in other words, Pontius Pilate made a promise to let him go. Okay, fourth piece of evidence. The firmness of Pilate's character in that what he had once said he would do. Y'all got that? 4, the firmness of Pilate's character in that what he said and that what he had once said he would do, in defiance of all the power of the chief priest, that he would do. Quote, what I have written is admitted. So in other words, Pilate said he would do what he would do. That's it, right? He was firm. 5, the remonstrance of Pilate's wife sent to him as he sat on the judgment seat to warn him to, quote, have nothing to do with that just man, end quote, is admitted. Mathew chapter 27, verse 19. 6th piece of evidence. His own conviction that he was a just man is admitted. Quote, I find in him no fault at all, end quote. 7th piece of evidence. The fact of no person but Pilate and his friends having access to the presence of JC, the Christ figure, in the judgment hall is admitted. 8th piece of evidence. That the person whom Pontius Pilate presented as JC, the Christ figure, and of whom he said, quote, behold the man, end quote, was disguised in a dress in which his person could not be recognized, most strongly implying that he was not the man, is admitted. Wow, I never thought about that. 9th, the strange and unaccountable appearance of, quote, Simon the Cyrenian, the father of Alexander and Rufus, coming out of the country, end quote, and being seized upon and compelled to carry the cross is admitted. Let me read 9 again. The strange and unaccountable appearance of, quote, Simon the Cyrenian, okay, the father of Alexander and Rufus, coming out of the country, end quote, and being seized upon and compelled to carry the cross is admitted. Those are 9 pieces of evidence, right? What evidence? Well, let's go back and read the paragraph on page 212 again. It reads, but there is relief to the matter upon the Unitarian hypothesis that where the story viewed as a matter of history, which I am sure it was never intended, and were all of its pretended evidence to be received as good and valid evidence and to be judged by the ordinary laws of evidence, as an honest jury and judge in any other case, it would not carry a verdict that the Christ had ever been put to death at all. And he gave 9 pieces of evidence showing that the Christ figure was not put to death. The Christ figure was not put to death. It was someone else. Now, this is the author saying it, not me. So y'all don't get mad at me. So go back and review these 9 pieces of evidence. So the author is saying that someone else was put to death, and then the Christ figure crept back in 3 days later and claimed he was resurrected. This is what it's looking like the author is building up to. So let's go to the next paragraph. And upon these admissions, it is found in evidence that the absolute grammatical construction of the text of both Matthew, Mark, and Luke, that is, of 3 of the 4, 3 out of the 4 gospels, y'all, as read as it ought to positively and literally to the sense that, quote, it was not JC the Christ figure, but Simon the Cyrene who was crucified. For in each of these fatal sentences, there is no other accusative in relief to be governed of the verb they crucified, but the accusative or objective case of the pronoun him answering to the noun Simon the Cyrenian. We see a footnote. They found Simon, him they compelled to bear his cross. To him they gave vinegar to drink, and they crucified him. They crucified Simon. So the asterisks read in the indictment, and then there's a, looks like a cross symbol, Ibid. All right. Oh, no, that's another footnote. My bad. All right. So y'all see what's happening here? The funny thing about this is that this Simon the Cyrenian, isn't he supposed to be a quote unquote black man, y'all? Isn't he supposed to be a black man? So they're saying that JC the Christ figure swapped places with Simon, okay, the so-called black man. Well, if he could pull that off, this is just a fun point. That would mean the Christ figure would have had to been a black man, right? If you read this according to what the author is asserting based upon the evidence, right? I've never heard anybody use this text or this argument to prove that JC, the Christ figure, was a quote unquote black man, and that the so-called Hebrew Israelites would have been black. Do y'all see the connection? Y'all see where I got that from? Isn't it supposed to be a black man who helped Christ carry his cross? If I got the story wrong, let me know. All right. So let me go back and read something. For in each of these fatal sentences, y'all see that? Fatal sentences, there is no other accusative in relief to be governed of the verb they crucified, but the accusative or objective case of the pronoun him, answering to the noun Simon the Cyrenian. And we see the parentheses. Gary Tucker says, good point. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. They found Simon, him they compelled to bear his cross. In other words, Pontius Pilate said, you know what? This man is innocent. JC, the Christ figure, is innocent. My wife done told me, don't mess with this man. I asked y'all people, y'all Jews, if y'all wanted to let him go, y'all said no. But I don't have any evidence to convict this man. And my wife done told me, don't fool around with this guy. Let him go. So what does Pilate do? He says, hey, okay, you see that guy over there, right? Put this Christ figure in some clothing so nobody can't see his face. And then y'all go swap him with that dude over there. Swap that cross. Put him in that dress and let the Christ figure go so I won't have no problems. Christ figure shows up 3 days later talking about I'm resurrected. This is what the author is saying. This is on page 213. Okay, 213. Okay, so I don't see anything in the chat, and we have been going. What I really like about this author, he makes me think about things I hadn't thought of. I hadn't thought about this in the story. I don't even pay attention to these gospel stories anymore, haven't for a very long time. But when I was in Christianity, I never thought that Pilate would have swapped out the Christ figure for the black man, the so-called black man, put him in there and let him suffer, right? And I wonder if this has some type of Masonic meaning, y'all. Does this have some type of Masonic meaning? The Christ figure is white, right? But he needs to bear his own burden. But it's okay to swap him out and put that on a black man. I wonder if that has some Masonic meaning, right? Blame or make the indigenous people pay for the crime, all right? Or make them carry the load, okay? Make them give up their life for you. I don't know, but I got a hunch it might have some type of Masonic meaning to it, swapping the Christ figure out, right? Anyway, what do y'all think about that? I think this is a good place to stop. Page 213. We've been going at it for 1 hour and 40 minutes. Time is flying when we do these presentations. Really flying. This book is only 341 pages, y'all. Only 341 pages. So at the rate we're going, we'll be finishing up this book soon. Okay, we're already 213 pages into it, you know. But anyway, I want to say thank y'all for spending the evening with me. And I want to remind you to go to 101 Ancient Ibaryath. Go to Zion Law School. Go to Zion Law School and register for the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, because you're going to learn the grammar skills, the linguistic skills that the author is using. That he is just like dazzling us with these skills. You're going to learn these skills when you go to zionlawschool.org and subscribe to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. Is phenomenal. You're going to be able to do what this author does with this training. It's $1 for 1 day trial. No doctrine at all. No doctrine, no religion. $10 per month subscription, cancel anytime. The culture is in the language. This is extremely intense. This is a comprehensive course. It's everything you need to reclaim your heritage, your Ibaryath heritage, your Hebraic heritage. with that, I'm going to say Shalawama, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Here's the schedule. All times are Eastern Standard Time. Do me a favor, do us a favor as a group. Invite someone to join y'all. Let's try to get 20 people tomorrow. We've had 10, 11. Let's try to get 20 people, okay? Yeah, let's try to get 20 people, especially if you've been enjoying and learning. All right, all times are Eastern Standard Time. Sunday, 2 p.m. Monday, 9 p.m. Tuesday, 10 p.m. Wednesday, 10 p.m. Thursday, 10 p.m. Friday, 9 p.m. Saturday, 8 p.m. So all those times are Eastern Standard Time. And if you haven't already downloaded the PDF, make sure y'all download the PDF in case they cut our screen off again. Print it if you can, because it's easier for you to read if you print it. Get it bound. I don't know how much it costs to bind something in the US, but overseas it's like cheap, really cheap, couple dollars to bind a PDF. So yeah, get it bound and have it with you so that when we're reading, you can crack it open. Yeah, we're gonna do the call in, Gary Russell. Gary Tucker, we're gonna do the call in tomorrow. I forgot. Hey, thanks for reminding me. You know, let me make a note of this. Roderick's point of view, it's possible because remember, Mary saw him dressed like a gardener. Wow, that's an excellent point. Roderick's point of view writes, it's possible. He's talking about the Christ figure being swapped out for Simon, the black guy, the supposedly or so-called black guy. Regarding that, Roderick's point of view writes, it's possible because remember saw him dressed like a gardener. Now, if he was resurrected, how did he come back dressed up like a gardener? Excellent point. Excellent point. Unless somebody gave him the clothes, right? They swapped him out, and either he had those clothes on under the robe, or they gave him the clothes, the gardener's clothes after. But maybe they planned it and he had on the gardener's clothes underneath that robe. And poor fellow, they, you know, but remember, scholars need esoteric meaning. Okay, I don't know if you all heard what I was talking about. My internet went out. Let me check to see if I'm back. Okay. All right, let me repeat what I said. Okay, so Gary, Roderick's point of view writes, it is possible because remember, Mary saw him dressed like a gardener. Now, if he was resurrected, how did he come back dressed like a gardener? Excellent point. Roderick's point of view is talking about what we just discussed a second ago. The Christ figure was swapped out. He was exchanged. Simon was put in the robe. The Christ figure was taken out, right? He was taken out. The only way you can explain the Christ figure coming back dressed like a gardener is if he was swapped out. right? Where did he get the gardener clothes? He was in a robe, even though they said the Romans took the robe. But it's a really, really good point. The thing to remember is that according to the author, this is an allegorical story. The allegory has astronomical meaning, but it also has an esoteric meaning. Okay, so you hear people talk about there's different levels of the Gospels, astrological and its esoteric meaning. So I'm thinking that Roderick and Gary Tucker are alluding to these points with their comments. And that's for those who may not be aware of this high-level discussion that we're having. But I'm sure Gary and Roderick's point of view are aware of this. But that's an excellent point. Christ's figure was either dressed in the gardener's clothes and had the robe over himself, and it was all planned. And then they swapped in the so-called black guy, and then the black guy got nailed to the cross. And then the Christ figure pops up 3 days later claiming he was resurrected. This is what the author is saying, right? And this is one of the possibilities of how he showed up dressed like a gardener. Okay, instead of whatever he had on, if anything, when he was put in the tomb. All right, so let's see. All right, I don't see any other comments. All right, y'all. All right, y'all. So I see y'all tomorrow. We're gonna do the call-in. We're gonna do the call-in show. So remember, y'all gonna carry the show with your call-ins and comments. Okay, so with your comments, the most I'll do is ask questions, but nothing, you know, I'm just gonna like interview you when you call in and make your comments on the topic to be discussed. All right. I'm trying to find the page where the topic is. Anybody remember the page? Hold on. The topic is which is more powerful? Which piece of evidence is more powerful? Where do we get that? Oh, I got it. That's page 211. Page 211, y'all. His rising from the dead afterwards is the paragraph. So y'all make a note of that, please. Make sure y'all download the PDF. Make sure y'all download the PDF. Also, if y'all have time, do some research. And it'll make, give you more to talk about and more to, maybe even more confidence. You know, I don't know where everybody is on this topic. But if you have time, do some more research too. So call-in show is going to be 4/7/22 at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the topic is on page 211. His rising from the dead afterwards, if we ourselves had seen him rise, would not have been so strong a proof to us of his truth as his not delivering himself from death was a proof to his falsehood. So in other words, what's the stronger proof? Him coming, Christ figure coming off the cross, or him being resurrected? Which is the stronger proof and why? That's the call-in show. Okay, Roderick's point of view. Yeah, we lost you for a minute. Yeah, I was trying to explain, give some input, some further discussion on the point you made, and my connection went off. But anyway, scholars, tomorrow call-in show, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The topic of the call-in show is which is more powerful evidence, the Christ figure coming off of the cross and saving himself, and then why? Or the Christ figure dying and being resurrected 3 days later. Why not? All right, y'all. So thanks for sharing your evening with me. Remember, invite somebody. Let's try to have 15 people, 15 or 20 people. Let's try to have tomorrow 15 or 20 people join us for the call-in. So thanks again. I enjoyed it. Everybody who commented, Appalachian Joel, Gary Tucker, Roderick's point of view. It really matters to me a lot, these comments, because my mission is to get people educated. So I appreciate your support sincerely. With that, I'm going to say Shalawama, and I will see everyone tomorrow. Thanks again for spending your evening with me. I am most grateful. See you all tomorrow. Shalawama.